Welcome or welcome back. This is Pairs World Knitting. I'm Jennifer, and this is a knitting podcast all about knitting, yarn adventures, and travel. Thank you so much for joining me today. And in today we have a very traditional knitting podcast coming at you that will go over finished objects, WIPS, and into some yarny goodness that I was able to get my hands on, in addition to details that correspond to the knit along, the Holiday Shrug Club KAL. So excited, so many knitting goodness things coming at everyone at this time of the year, and we're doing it. We're doing all of the yarny adventures. First of all, what I'm wearing. What I'm wearing today is the Magnolia Bloom. This is a pattern by Camilla Vad, who also designed the filled sweater that I really love knitting and of course enjoy wearing. The Magnolia Bloom was one of my 5 sweaters joining me on my Rhinebeck and Beyond trip, Road Trip 2.0. This design is a very chunky Aran weight yarn with a big gauge, so it knits up fairly quickly-ish, although I will talk about knitting and speed in the video as we go. This was knit in Topsy Farm yarn, which is an Aran weight, to try to match the gauge. Didn't have success in matching the gauge, I never do. So I went down to a US 8 in the body and a 7 in the ribbing. 8 was also done for the lace and baubles. Love knitting the baubles, but let's talk about the yarn. Topsy Farm yarn is an Ontario local yarn, about 3 hours away from me. This is a sheep, a farm that is on Amherst Island, right outside of Prince Edward County, if you know it. If you don't, you should. They have, I think, about like 500 sheep-ish on the farm, and very rustic, woolly, like a homey yarn. I believe that I talked to the store keeper who was in there. I did visit Topsy Farm Yarn 2 summers ago on Amherst Island, and they get their wool processed on Prince Edward Island at the McLaughlin's mill, and then have it sent back. And it's very Canadiana. I love Canadian local yarn in every way, and yeah, the colorway is fantastic. This was a limited edition. They were calling it olive green. I don't believe they have it right now, but they have lots of other lovely colors. So it's a Topsy Farm yarn. Back to the pattern of the Magnolia Bloom. This is a really intuitive pattern I found. This was my 2nd time knitting it. I have another version. This was my 2nd of 2 that I've done, not the last, because it is such a fun knit, and it's a really stunning yoke, especially for the amount of time that it takes to knit up. It's very pleasing to look at with not heaps of time put in. I love knitting the baubles. I love the end product of the baubles. They call them the nups in the pattern, which I think is fun. But even preparing them, I enjoy. I don't know if a lot of people do. I've heard that some people actually omit the baubles because they actually don't enjoy the process. I love them. I think they're great. And I forget what video I watched. I might have to link it into the show notes. There was a video I watched on how to make your nups perkier. So basically like a perky bauble. And I followed the video on how to perkify the nups, and I did. And I feel like they're like perky to the max. This is a really round yarn, so I feel like it really allows the yoke to shine in all the ways with the lace detail, but especially with those nups. They're just like standing up on end, which is exactly what you want. You want a 3D perky nup. Okay, as we move on from the perky nups. So that's a Magnolia Bloom. I knit the size small, which might be the 2nd size. And yeah, we'll insert some footage somewhere that shows how she looks on. So it's definitely a slimmer more like less ease sweater, I think, than the designer intended. But this is definitely the look that I wanted to go for when I was knitting this version at the time. Pressing on to finished objects. My first and only finished object is fingerless gloves. I showed these on the Rhinebeck packing video. These are 2 strands held double of Nutiden yarn. I paired it with 1 strand of mohair. The mohair I paired with it was a scrappy mohair. I don't even have the mohair recorded because I didn't have the ball band at the time. These are no pattern mitt. They're what I'm calling my favorite fingerless gloves, and they are. I brought 3 different versions of these, different gauges of different yarn, because the other version I had ramafinal that I used with 2 strands held double. So these were obviously a much like chunkier, bigger gauge than what I've knit before, but yeah, just figured it out. They're a little cozy adventure, and I have to say, like a day like today, it's snowing. It's a slight maritime blizzard out there. These are perfect and super cozy coats. I've had a lot of questions about them, and I think right now I'm happy to just, you know, share some info. I would love to do like a video on them, but right now we're in KAL full on, so perhaps after KAL we'll get there. These are the my favorite fingerless gloves. Super treat, super fuzz, luxurious, fun, only finished object. It is the only finished object because, and I don't want to chat your ear off for 5 years on this, however, I'm going to get into the story with some of the lovelies that I was meeting at Rhinebeck. Super chatty, so interested about, you know, the knitting I'm doing, what I'm working on. I had a few people comment, "You knit so quickly. What's your secret?" I'm like, oh, there's no secret there. Although I do have naughty, dirty knitting secrets, as you are beginning to know. And I had one person ask, "Do you have a sample knitter?" I'm like, no, I don't. Not that I'm judging if you do, because I get it, especially for business, when you do need a lot of things knit up and have very, you know, intense deadlines, of course. I'm just a knitter. I'm just having a great time. I enjoy the process. I enjoy the end product. I do have to say, this year, being on my sabbatical, not going to work, has very much opened up my free time, as it should, into the world of running and workouts and having coffee with your friends and sipping beautiful glasses of red wine and knitting. And so I do have to say, I did not put the brakes on, and it was full steam ahead in knitting. Anytime that this bottom was sitting down, these hands were busy knitting. I was having a blast. Knitting my cables, doing a little bit of color work, doing stockinette on all the projects. So we were just pumping out gorgeous knits that I have had the best time knitting on. Naughty dirty knitting secret. Some of us received pain, and of course, with the person I am, I'm thinking, I'm fine, I'll truck on, this will pass, this too shall pass. She did not pass. The pain got worse, until the point where I thought, I might have to go see my lovely physio in town of Toronto. So I did, and it was confirmed that we have tennis elbow from knitting. Tennis elbow. Do you think I play tennis? Do I play racket sports? It'd be fun. No, so I'm calling it knitter's elbow, which is kind of a thing. I've checked it out on the interwebs. So from my amazing physio, who I have worked with for other injuries that included, you know, obsessive like kettlebell workout injuries, running injuries, now dealing with a knitting injury. So I found it's funny, it's too bad. But that's the way it goes. So she gave me a lot of great little stretches and exercises to work on, as well with the high recommendation of stopping knitting for a period of time. And it wasn't understanding. It wasn't computing in my head, like, don't knit? How can I not? This is how, in my world, even when I was working, I would start my day with knitting, coffee, a little bite of breakfast. I would knit on the TTC up and down from work. I would knit at night to finish my day. Everything else of the rest of my life would trickle into place, but there was always a component of knitting. I'm being told you need to take a break. I have not listened in the past when I've had different running injuries and have done severe damage to different little parts of my body. So I'm trying to be mature and wiser than my past. And so I listened for a period of time. And I started doing the little increments that were suggested to me of half an hour of knitting, an hour of break, and only do it a few times a day. So I did, and it was really hard. I really have to say my hands are busy hands. And so not having them do anything or knitting, it seemed almost impossible. It's almost like when I've been highly injured or severely sick and I cannot get out and sweat and move my body in the way that I enjoy. I felt that kind of heaviness on me where I just wanted to do the thing. So I've started slowly integrating it back again until a couple nights ago. Don't tell my physio. So it's happening. It's happening again. I'm trying not to knit as much as I was because, again, everything, kind of, it's like ebbs and flows, but also we have to have like happy mediums of everything, and even amazing, great things that are bringing us joy, like knitting. I think, still trying to be mindful and careful so we don't cause injury while knitting. That should be a thing, injury while knitting. So that, a big damper. But the really amazing, great thing is that during that time when I was told, like, thou shalt not knit, was the time I was meeting all of these wonderful knitters in the Rhinebeck Adventures. So even though I wasn't able to fully, get my knit on, I was able to meet all the knitters and kind of get that, that wonderful feedback from everyone that supplemented, if you will, for that challenging time. And sadly, I think if I continue to knit how I was, the quantity of knitting I was doing, it's gonna come back. Like, I'm already feeling some issues happening again because the last couple nights have been very chilly out. We have this magical wood burning stove. Of course, sip of red wine, get in some knitting. We're trying to pumping the brakes, trying to be, calm, wise about it so that I can continue doing the things I really love doing for a really long time and treating our body with care. We'll see. Okay, there's the naughty, dirty knitting secret. So if you are a knitter and if you are like me and obsessively knitting away, perhaps word to the wise, perhaps you've gone through this before. I mean, is this a thing that we're experiencing? This tennis elbow, knitter's elbow, knitting injuries? It's a whole new world, I gotta tell you. All right, I will get into my now WIPS. We will go into, I think, we'll do the simple into maybe, we'll go sweaters first and then some chapeaus, some hats. First is the sweater that's breaking the sweater curse. Do you think this is part of the curse? The tennis elbow wee bit? Sweater curse? I mean, is this a new type of a sweater curse? I don't know. I don't think he or she has had a lot of gross sense. Just stocking it in the round at this point. This is a 2-stranded raglan with lifted increases. This is being featured many times. Hasn't had a lot of knit time because when I am having the knit time, I'm trying to be choosy about what I'm doing. Not to say that this isn't important, but this will be a December finish knit. And also like fairly mindless because it's just stock knit. I've also, I mean, I haven't even talked about this, and this could be a whole episode, but I very much have tried to modify how I knit. I've tried, so I'm a continental knitter, which is why I'm having the pain in my left forearm here, but, and a lot of tension, like tightness, stiffness in the hand and the different kind of like ligamenty bits. But I have to say, I've tried, what is this, throwing, the English style? Not for me. I found it very challenging. Of course, it's like learning how to ride a bike again. I really put it in perspective with, it's represented through like writing. If we are a right-handed writer, like writing like pen and paper writer, and then you go and you switch to the left hand, like out of control, feels weird, doesn't feel right. You're relearning everything. Same thing, I think, with learning how to knit in a totally different way. So I have modified the way I'm holding my yarn, if that makes sense, on stockinette stitches, like knitting stitches. And I'm going back to how I'm comfortable doing my purls, and I'm finding kind of the combo of holding my yarn is really helpful to kind of like pushing out the pain that I've experienced on my arm. Is this too much information? I don't know. Like, again, I don't know if this is as common or not, but it's helped. Modifying a lot with how I'm holding and tensioning my yarn has helped. Okay, moving on to my next sweater. This is the Press Fowler's Pullover by Amy Christoffers. And yes, this is where my knitting time has gone into. It's just such an addictive knit. It's so stunning. Here she is. Balls are rolling away as they do. I have finished the body. I posted that on Instagram one day and just like love her hard. The sleeve got finished the other night, and just like, I mean, this detail, are we for real? It's gorgeous. The little like pearl bump here, the one by Run ribbing on the cuff. I did, and I'll go into detail when I finish her one day. What did I do? I didn't do a purl over pearl bind off on this. I did in pattern bind off. So I did a purl over knit, a knit over purl kind of thing. And I feel for me, perfect bind off. I did it for obviously the body as well. It is about a 1,000-pound sweater because it is mosaic knitting. So this is the first piece I've ever done mosaic knitting with, but essentially you're knitting like 2 rows to get 1 row. So it's like double the amount of effort to get the same as you would for like 1 row of knitting, I guess, if that makes sense. A lot of slipping stitches. But just, it's so satisfying. It's just so beautiful. Yes, so this is where my time has gone into during my times that I'm allowing myself to knit. But as you can tell, even though I'm trying to be good at listening to my physiotherapist and my pain in my arm, listening to that as well, listening to our bodies, it's a very addictive knit because you just, for me, I'm like, ooh, I'll just finish half the flower. Oh, I'll just get done the next flower. Oh, when I'm on the sleeve, I'll just get to the next like decrease. A little naughty, but it's knitting. Then we'll take a break. We're taking a break now. Look at me. I'm like videoing and taking a break. This is, I haven't even talked about this. So this pattern, gorgeous, and so well thought out. All the math is done. There's 0 issues I've had with the pattern written itself from Amy Christoffers. Just tickety-boo. Amazing. It has charts, it has words. I love the charts, definitely my thing. It is knit. The cream color is a natural, I almost want to say like 10, 12, just because I've had to look up this color so many times, from Sanus Garn. It's the Peer Gynt. Is having a moment right now with podcasters. I feel like I decided to knit with the Peer Gynt even before she was like a shining star in knitting podcast world. I was just very interested because it was commercial, but still really rustic, met the gauge of what I needed for the pressed flowers, and the warmth of this like creamy natural color going with this like stunner of a hand-dyed yarn. This hand-dyed yarn, so this is the orangey pinky bit. This I've talked about is from, I purchased from Fia Fia. It is a Halifax hand dyer named Alice Alishka. And it's called the Alice Alishka Yarn Cake. And it is just like, get in there. It is just a mash of pinks and oranges and color changes throughout. Glorious. Glorious, glorious. I'm hoping to go to Fia Fia before we leave. It's so lovely. It's so lovely. Okay, that is the Pressed Flowers pullover. Perhaps the next time I podcast, she may be done. If she's not, we're giving grace because, you know what? We don't want to hurt the precious little bod. Next up on the list, this is not done. This, I had a goal in my brain. You're gonna laugh in a second. For my brain hat, for Halloween, I wanted to get this done. Didn't happen. Again, knitting time has gone pretty much to the Pressed Flowers pullover. The brain hat I've talked about, this is a skull cap. I totally went off of kind of my own knowledge of hat construction to make a skull cap, or like a really tight beanie with like 4 sections of decreases. This is for a friend. Now the funny part is, if you haven't seen, there is a massive I-cord bit and you're like, what's that for? Oh, it's called the brain hat. This is for the gray matter of the brain. So essentially what you do, and this pattern that's free, I'll link it in the show notes if you're intrigued as well to construct a brain hat. You make this massive, like silly long I-cord that just goes for quite some time, and you pin it eventually once you're sorted and you kind of guess the length. The pattern's very open for interpretation, not a lot of direction, which is cool. It's free pattern. This gets pinned onto your hat, not like this, much more brainy like for the gray matter, and then you stitch it down. So this goes into one of the hemispheres. I have the other I-cord for the other gray matter that will be pinned like-minded. I'm being too much on this side, so that you get the 2 hemispheres of the brain, and she becomes a brain hat. I don't even know if this I-cord will be long enough for one of the sections or one of the hemispheres of the brain. I'm almost done with the yarn for this guy. I have to make sure that they're kind of the same length. I don't know. I bought pins while I'm here just in case I can actually like tack it on and stitch it on. If I don't have enough yarn here, I have a whole other ball at home, but of course I left it at home because I forgot. I also forgot a couple other things you're gonna see later on. So that's where we are with the brain hat. She's also part of the, oh my gosh, I didn't even talk about this. She's also part of the Spooky Stitches KAL that Nora from AK Nora Knits is hosting. Backtracking, if I may. This gorgeous creature, she is part of, I'm like naughty cheating. This is part of the tomato soup KAL that is being run by High Fiber Knits. And like tomato soupy to the max, loving it. Like almost, maybe she looks like a tomato even. Loving that. And then I sneakily, because of Fia Fia, like gorgeous little shop in Halifax, they're also having a fall knit along. So I've kind of like snuck it in there for fun, but also promoting the little shop, like pretty good. I have a new cast on. I know, we're all judging. I'm judging myself here. I went into the Mariner's Daughter, which is in Lunenburg. Super gorgeous little shop there. I visited in the summer. We've gone back. Do I need more yarn? No. Do I need another cast on? Absolutely not. But I told myself, I justified the new cast on because I needed a like emergency travel knitting. When I'm saying emergency travel knitting, I mean this is like a thing, a project that I can keep in my little tote that I bring with me. I just like, if I'm hustling out the door or even like solely, I don't have to think. She's living in my tote. I bring it with me out, walking, on a car, like even like a car trip to the grocery store, if I'm not driving, of course, the coffee shop. I didn't have anything like super petite that I could bring with me. Cue this hat. I'm sorry, she's gone through a rough moment, the little card. This is a hat pattern from the Mariner's Daughter. It's the Everybody Loves This Hat Deluxe Edition. She's a little pattern from that knit shop or yarn shop that I picked up. I wanted to grab the prescribed yarn, which was, hold on, I don't want to say it wrong. Do they even include it on here? The Illimani Baby Llama yarn, which is like gorgeous yarn. In this color is the sample. They also have a sample in the shop that's brown. I'm talking too much. But I didn't pick it up because it was a skein of yarn and I forgot my yarn Swift. And they don't have a Swift on site. So we bought, voila, we bought this yarn, which is the ball band, Sheebies Terrazzo, which is a red as well. It's no luster. It's like a very matte rustic yarn, DK weight, and has a little tweedy goodness there. So this is just a 1x1 ribbed hat. It has, I think it's like 5 sections of decreases, but the decreases are what did it for me in the store for the sample, because it kind of like swishes, like swirls around at the top with the decreases, which I haven't done yet. I've done a lot of like, you know, linear, very like 90-degree angle decrease things, if that makes sense. So this called to me, this was interesting. And so this I can just like plop in my bag, go, don't even think about it. I've also taken a picture of the other side, that's the pattern, on my phone. So I don't have to bring this around with me, although you can see, sadly. I did try to bring this around. So I'm having this on the go as well. As a like slow knit, I knit significantly less stitches as I normally do. But again, I won't give too much away about the pattern. You'll see, I'm sure she'll be done the next time, as I'm being mindful about my knitting choices. Yes. Next up is, let's do this. Let's do the new purchase. Again, I know, I just visited Mariner's Daughter, purchased more yarn. Then I went here. This is a little yarn shop based out of Le Havre, Nova Scotia. This is a yarn shop that is based in someone's house that they've been collecting fibers, wool, undyed wool over time, and are selling it. They had, and I'm going to talk about it in a second, yarn that was on consignment from a local hand dyer. I mean, such a cool place. I tried to visit in the summer. When we were here, they were closed. The shop owner is Sue, super lovely. As I was in, this is the thing about like this gorgeous area, is that you see people that you recognize from another place. So I walk in to Chocolate River Yarns, and not only is Sue there, who I've never met, she's the shop owner, Leslie Armstrong from my, I think it was like Downey's Part 1 video. She's the weaver from the Le Havre Weaving Studio. Just so, she was the gracious human that made time to show us all about the weaving and the floor looms that she had. She was in there. I mean, amazing. It was so nice to see her. In Chocolate River Yarns, I purchased these. These are very Canadiana, hand-dyed skeins. It's showing up, I think, a little more blue in the camera. It's like, I would say like a Delft blue. This is what my mother would call Delft blue from like the 80s. It is from Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia raised, spun, and dyed. My little heart is just loving that. And, oh, is that right? Yep, it is, okay. It is 70% Romney, 30% Texel, which apparently is a breed of sheep. I was like, what is that? Oh, it's a breed of sheep, cool. And it's 112 grams for 115 meters. Yes. So I'm thinking mittens. This is also one of my mother's like very favorite colors. I have knit her things before and they're always blue. She gets very hot, so I've knit her one actual sweater, and it's too hot for her. So I think accessories. I was also thinking a shrug. A shrug. Yes. Okay. Shall we get into the shrug talk? Okay, let's do it. So, as you may know, and if you do not, I will share for the first time, I'm so excited to be hosting the very first knit along ever for Pairs World Knitting for a shrug. This is the Holiday Shrug Club KAL. This is a shrug club that is going to be starting up with a knit along November 3rd. It runs until December 31st. I shared kind of highlights of the details in my last video. The idea of this Shrug Club KAL for the holidays is that you will knit a shrug for yourself, for friend, for loved one, for chosen family, you decide. But it is a shrug inclusive KAL. So you choose from one of Jackie Rose's gorgeous patterns. She has 3 free shrug patterns, the Friday, Saturday, or Sunday shrug. In addition, and if you want, the cinched shrug, which is a paid for pattern. So many details. So the Friday, Saturday, Sunday shrug are all free patterns. Each gauge is a little different. The Friday shrug is the smallest gauge. So this is like for a DK weight. The Saturday is for an like Aran, slightly like running too bulky weight. And then the Sunday is for a very chunky, super bulky weight. These are all fairly quick because they're all 1x1 ribs and you're basically knitting a tube. The difference is with her newest design, the cinched shrug is a 1x1 ribbing, but it offers shaping. So you're actually getting shaping at the neck, and I'll insert some video, and growth at the shoulders to cover over the shoulders to get that nice hug effect. But then you're having that gorgeous shaping near your neck. This is the shrug that I will be casting on, the cinched shrug. Before I get into exactly what I'm doing, and I've shared tidbits of information there for November 2nd at the end, we were hosting a giveaway. It's probably over now by the time I'm getting this out. Person will receive a free copy of Jackie Rose's cinched shrug pattern to come and prepare them for this knit along, which is pretty cool. Since then, I have announced prizes. So this knit along goes for quite some time because again, you might want to knit more than just one. And it's also a busy time of year for tons of people. So this gives you tons of time to decide what you're gonna knit, what yarn you're gonna use, which shrug you're gonna cast on, or which one's plural. And how you enter in the prizes. Prizes are one of two, is another knitting pattern paid for, I should say paid pattern from Jackie Rose. This is the SoHo square. It's been taking over, I feel, Instagram with gorgeous shots of that the SoHo square, so please go ahead and check that out. And in addition, another gorgeous prize is a $50 gift card from my very favorite local yarn shop, which is the Knitting Loft. So you get to decide what you're going to be purchasing from the Knitting Loft. I mean, so much fun because you get to choose what yarn. And if you are going to, you know, will you knit another shrug with this yarn if you choose yarn, or something totally different? I mean, they have yarns that I know as a Canadian kid living in the city, I can't get my hands on anywhere except there. They have very interesting mix of all kinds of like hand-dyed yarns, but rustics as well. If you're a rustic person, Rustic Knitters rejoice. I mean, they have Norwegian yarns, they have Swedish yarns, they have yarns that I have not seen anywhere else. And every time I'm there, I just feel like I'm drooling the entire time. So that's a $50 gift card from the Knitting Loft. Pressing on, how do you win one of these gorgeous prizes? By participating in the knit along. So anytime you wish to post in Instagram using a post or reel of your WIP, or maybe it's your finished object of your shrug, you just hashtag Holiday Shrug Club KAL and you'll be entered to win. I'm going to take all of those gorgeous entries and generate a little randomized list to choose the winner of the pattern and a separate winner for the gift card. What I'm going to be casting on is a cinch. I'm using the Camilla Sniff Nug. This is in that black that I just feel is going to be perfect for the holidays and go with absolutely everything. I purchased this from the Knitting Loft, and again, they carry such a great combination of yarn from all over the world that we love. This is going with the Skein Cocaine mini skein that I received at Rhinebeck. I've just balled it up and hopefully insert a little silly video that I took because I don't have my yarn swift here, so I used the back of a chair. Here's my plan. I don't have a scale. I also forgot my scale. Do I have to cast on for the cast on date for the KAL? Absolutely. So this is what I'm thinking. I don't have a scale, but I have a very long bench that is located where I'm staying. I will probably take a silly video of how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna describe it very quickly. I'm planning on wrapping this, I think it's fingering, definitely fingering, hand dyed, beautiful, like look at the colors, like I can't even. Hand dyed yarn around the bench a number of times, as many times as I can, I guess. Before this, sorry, backtracking, I'm going to use just one strand held single of this yarn to cast on the amount of stitches I need for the cinch shrug. Then I'm going to figure out roughly how many times I can get that cast on out of this on the top of my finger, wrapping around the bench. Somehow this is going to make sense. I'm going to take that amount and divide it hopefully by like 3 to get at least 3 strands if I can of the mini skein, if not 4. And then that will be my cast on edge without a scale, without a yarn swift, without any technology, just my brain and luck. So that's the idea. This will be multiple strands, like held triple, quadruple, hopefully on my cast on for the cinch. And then she'll be all this gorgeous, like nightfall black after. I have posted the most gorgeous shrugs that people have made from the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and cinch shrug that are hopefully acting as inspiration for you to kick off and get jazzed about the knit along. There has been everything from, like, obviously inspired by Jackie and Caddy Jack Knits, which is the podcast that she hosts as well. Super bright, fun colors, but there's been everything. There has been like very monochromatic. There's been like radiant shrugs. There's been shrugs with unspun. There's been shrugs with scrappy yarn. There's been shrugs with like super fans like cashmere. There's everything in between. And the nice thing is because it is a relatively smaller knit, still an accessory, like the world's your oyster for what you'd like to knit and how you'd like to knit it using the yarn you might already have, or maybe you want to do a new purchase. So excited, and maybe even by the time you've seen this, I will have cast it on and hopefully figured out the math. I don't know. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I have had such a great time putting this all together. I'm so looking forward to the knit along with you, and I cannot wait to see people's WIPs and finished objects as we go. I know the cinch is going to be the beginning of my knit along for myself and my personal projects, but I don't think it will be the only one. So I hope you find joy in your knitting today. Let me know if you have any questions about the knit along, or would like to share, if you feel open enough, about any knitting issues that you may have had with injuries and how you're dealing with it. That would be great if you feel comfortable. So thank you for joining me, and until next time.